The massive space station called Harmony's Edge floated in the darkness like a metal city. It was bigger than most planets and home to the Galactic Council. Ships from hundreds of worlds came and went from its docking bays every day. Today, a small human ship approached one of those bays. The ship was called Soul's Promise, and it carried only 4 people. These 4 humans were about to face the most powerful organization in the galaxy. The Galactic Council ruled over thousands of worlds and billions of aliens. They had called humanity to answer serious charges. Ambassador Lee Hyun stood at the window of his ship, watching the station grow larger. He was a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a gentle smile that never seemed to leave his face. His diplomatic robes were simple but clean. Other diplomats throughout the galaxy knew him well. They called him the Smiling Diplomat, because he always stayed calm and friendly, even during the worst arguments. "Ambassador, we're almost there," said Park Jin, the team's security chief. He was a big man with strong hands and worried eyes. Jin had served with Hyun for 5 years and trusted him completely. But something felt wrong about this mission. "Thank you, Jin," Hyun replied, his smile warm and peaceful. "How are our communications?" Kim Nari looked up from her computer screens. She was young and brilliant, able to hack almost any system in the galaxy. "All systems working perfectly, sir. I've got backup channels ready if we need them." The 4th member of their team was Choi Min, an expert on alien cultures. He knew the languages and customs of dozens of species. "The Council species are very angry with us," he warned. "My sources say they plan to make an example of humanity." Hyun's smile never changed. "Then we'll have to show them that humans can be quite reasonable." The Soul's Promise docked with a soft bump. Through the station's windows, they could see the busy corridors filled with aliens of every shape and size. Some walked on legs, others floated in the air, and a few rolled along the floor. The diversity was amazing, but today it felt threatening. "Remember," Hyun told his team as they prepared to leave the ship, "we represent all of humanity today. Stay calm, stay professional, and trust in the truth." The 4 humans walked through the station's corridors. Aliens stopped to stare at them. Most had never seen humans before. Some whispered to each other in languages that sounded like music or grinding metal. Others made sounds that hurt to listen to. The council chamber was enormous. It could hold thousands of beings, and today it was almost full. Representatives from dozens of worlds sat in floating chairs or on strange platforms that matched their species' needs. At the center was a raised platform where the accused would stand. Leading the council was General Kextar of the Vorthak Empire. The Vorthaks were tall, gray-skinned warriors with 4 arms and red eyes. They had conquered dozens of worlds and believed that might made right. Kextar looked at the humans like they were insects. Next to him sat Counselor Thekmol of the Zelani Confederation. The Zelani were small, blue-skinned beings with large heads full of sharp teeth. They were known for being very smart and very sneaky. Thekmol's black eyes studied the humans carefully. "Humans," General Kextar's voice boomed through the chamber. "You stand accused of crimes against the peace of the galaxy." Ambassador Hyun walked to the center platform, still smiling. His 3 team members stayed close but respectful. "Honorable council members," Hyun said, his voice clear and calm. "Humanity is honored to appear before you today. We come in peace and friendship." "Peace?" Thekmol laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Your species has been expanding into contested space. You build colonies where they don't belong. You ignore the borders we have set." "With respect," Hyun replied, "humans have only settled on uninhabited worlds. We have followed all galactic laws about expansion." Kim Nari quietly activated her computers ready to provide evidence if needed. Park Jin stood alert, watching the crowd. Something about this felt like a trap. Choi Min studied the alien representatives, noting their hostile body language. "You lie," General Kextar growled. "We have proof of human aggression." "Show them." "Counselor." A large screen appeared in the air above the chamber. It showed what looked like a human warship attacking a peaceful alien colony ship. The images were terrible. The colony ship exploded, and thousands of innocent aliens died. The chamber erupted in angry sounds. Representatives shouted at the humans, in dozens of languages. Some stood up, waving weapons or claws. The hatred was thick in the air, but Hyun just kept smiling. "May I examine this evidence?" he asked politely. Kim Nari's fingers flew over her computer. Within seconds, she was analyzing the video. Her face went pale as she discovered the truth. She whispered to Hyun, "Sir, this is fake. The timestamps are wrong, and the ship design is from 50 years ago." Hyun nodded slightly. "Counselor Thekmol," he said, "this evidence appears to have some problems. The human ship in your video uses technology that hasn't existed for decades. Also, the star positions in the background don't match any known system." Thekmol's eyes narrowed. "Are you calling the council liars?" "I'm simply pointing out facts," Hyun replied, his smile growing slightly wider. "Perhaps there has been a mistake." For the next 2 hours, the council presented more evidence. Each piece was carefully designed to make humanity look evil and dangerous. But Hyun and his team calmly destroyed every lie. Kim Nari provided real data that contradicted the fake evidence. Choi Min explained how certain alien customs had been misunderstood. Park Jin stood silent but alert, protecting his ambassador. The council members grew more and more angry as their case fell apart. They had expected the humans to be frightened and confused. Instead, they were calm and professional. Worst of all, they were winning the argument. "Enough!" General Kexatar finally shouted. "We have heard enough human lies." Hyun looked around the chamber. He could see that many of the representatives were starting to doubt the charges against humanity. His smile was still gentle and diplomatic. "Honorable Council, humanity seeks only peace and friendship with all species. We hope that today's discussion has cleared up any misunderstandings." But as he spoke, Hyun noticed something troubling. Hidden panels in the chamber walls were sliding open slightly. Inside those panels, he could see the gleam of weapons. Park Jin saw them too and moved closer to his ambassador. The trap was about to spring. The council chamber had grown quiet after Hyun's last words. The silence felt heavy and dangerous. Ambassador Hyun could sense the change in the room's mood. His team stood behind him, ready for anything. General Kextar's 4 arms moved to touch, controls on his chair. "You speak of peace, human, but your species is a cancer in our galaxy. You spread like a disease, taking what doesn't belong to you." "General, with respect, humanity has followed all expansion laws," Hyun replied calmly. "We have documentation for every colony we've established." Kim Nari stepped forward with her portable computer. "I can provide the legal documents right now. Every human settlement has proper permits from the appropriate authorities." Counselor Thekmol made a sound like angry cats fighting. "Your documents mean nothing. We know what your species really is. You are warriors pretending to be diplomats." Hyun's smile remained steady. "Counselor, humans have been at peace for over 30 years. We have no active military conflicts with any species." "That's what makes you dangerous," Thekmol hissed. "You fight wars without weapons. You use words and tricks instead of honest battle." The accusation hung in the air like poison. Hyun felt his team tense behind him. Park Jin's hand moved closer to his sidearm, though weapons were supposedly forbidden, in the chamber. "If you're referring to the Krill conflict," Hyun said carefully, "that was resolved through negotiation, not warfare." General Kextar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Negotiation? You destroyed their entire civilization without firing." A shot. You turned them against each other until they tore themselves apart. The chamber erupted again. Representatives from dozens of worlds began shouting. Some called for human blood. Others demanded immediate action against Earth. The noise was deafening. Hyun raised his hand for silence. Amazingly, the chamber quieted. His diplomatic reputation still carried weight, even here. The Krill chose their own path, Hyun said. Humanity simply provided information about their leader's corruption. We cannot be blamed for their internal problems. Lies, Thekmol screamed. You manipulated them. You fed them false information until they went to war with themselves. The information was completely accurate, Hyun replied. We merely shared what we had learned about their government's crimes against their own people. Kim Nari nodded. Every piece of data we provided was verified by independent sources. The Krill people deserved to know the truth about their leaders. But something had changed in the chamber. The alien representatives were no longer just angry. They looked scared. Hyun realized they weren't really upset about human expansion, or even the Krill situation. They were terrified of what humans might do to them. You see? General Kekstar pointed at Hyun with two of his arms. Even now, he admits to destroying a civilization. This is why humanity must be stopped. Stopped? Choi Min spoke for the first time. What exactly are you suggesting, General? The hidden panels in the walls suddenly opened completely. Weapons platforms emerged from every direction, all aimed at the human delegation. Energy cannons, plasma rifles, and other deadly devices surrounded them. We're suggesting, Thekmol said with obvious pleasure, that humanity's expansion ends today. Park Jin immediately stepped in front of Hyun, his own weapon appearing in his hands. Ambassador, get down! But there was nowhere to go. The entire chamber was a trap. The weapons platforms had perfect angles on every part of the floor. The alien representatives moved back, clearing the firing lines. You planned this from the beginning, Hyun said. His voice was still calm, but his smile had changed somehow. It looked sharper now. Of course we did, General Kekstar admitted. Did you think we would let your species continue to threaten galactic peace? You're too dangerous to live. Kim Nari was frantically working on her computer. I'm trying to send a message to Earth, but they're jamming our signals. No messages will leave this station, Thekmol laughed. No one will know what happened here until it's too late. The weapons platforms began to charge with a high-pitched whining sound. Energy built up in their barrels, creating an eerie glow in the chamber. Wait, Hyun said, still standing straight and proud. Before you murder diplomats under a flag of truce, let me ask you something. Do you really think Earth doesn't know where we are? General Kekstar hesitated. What do you mean? I mean, Hyun's smile grew wider. That attacking diplomats is an act of war. Are you prepared for war with humanity? Your species has no military, Thekmol snarled. You said so. Yourself. 30 years of peace, remember? That's true, Hyun agreed. We haven't fought a war in decades, but that doesn't mean we forgot how. The first energy blast came from a cannon aimed at Choi Min. The cultural expert tried to dodge, but the beam was too fast. He screamed once, as the energy tore through him, then collapsed to the floor. Min! Park Jin shouted. He fired his weapon at the nearest platform, but his small sidearm barely scratched the armored weapons. Kim Nari managed to get one message out through a backup channel before 3 beams hit her at once. Her last words were, Protocol Omega. The ambassador remembers everything. Park Jin threw himself between Hyun and the next volley of shots. The loyal security chief took 5 direct hits, but managed to stay standing long enough to whisper, Show them why they call you Death, Admiral. Then he fell, his body smoking from the energy blasts. Hyun stood alone in the center of the chamber, surrounded by the bodies of his team. His diplomatic robes were torn and bloody. Smoke filled the air, and the smell of burned flesh made many aliens cover their breathing organs. But Hyun was still standing, and he was still smiling. Protocol Omega, he said quietly, as if talking to himself. I haven't heard that name in years. General Kextar aimed another weapon at him. Any last words, human? Hyun looked around the chamber at the hundreds of alien faces watching him. His smile was no longer diplomatic. It was something else entirely. Something that made several aliens step backward in fear. Just one thing, Hyun said. You really should have done your research better. What research? Thekmol demanded. Hyun's smile became truly frightening. You should have asked why a man, known throughout the galaxy as the Smiling Diplomat, used to be called something else. The aliens looked confused but also worried. Something in Hyun's voice had changed completely. What were you called? General Kextar asked, though he clearly didn't want to know the answer. Hyun's laugh was soft and terrible. They used to call me Admiral Lee Hyun, but my enemies had a different name for me. The chamber was dead silent now. They called me the Smiling Death. The name hung in the air like a curse. Several alien representatives made sounds of fear. Even General Kextar's forearms trembled slightly. The Smiling Death was a legend whispered in dark corners throughout the galaxy. Hyun brushed a piece of debris from his torn diplomatic robes. His movements were calm and careful, like a predator that knew its prey was already caught. You know, he said conversationally, I retired from military service for a very good reason. My superiors said I enjoyed the work a little too much. Thekmol's blue skin had turned pale. You're lying. The Smiling Death disappeared years ago. Everyone knows he's dead. Do they? Hyun asked, tilting his head slightly. Or did he simply become something else? Something more useful to humanity? The weapons platforms were still aimed at him, but none of the aliens seemed eager to fire. They had heard the stories. The Smiling Death was the human who had ended 3 wars without losing a single battle. He was the strategist who convinced enemy fleets to destroy themselves. The Krill War, whispered an alien representative from the back of the chamber. You really did that? Hyun's smile grew wider. Oh, that was beautiful work. 50 million. Krill warriors, ready to crush humanity. Do you know how I stopped them? Nobody answered. The chamber was completely silent except for the hum of machinery. I sent their high commander a gift, Hyun continued. A simple data file containing evidence that his second commander was planning to kill him. The evidence was completely real. By the way, I just had to wait for the right moment to share it. General Kextar's red eyes were wide with horror. That started their civil war. It did, Hyun agreed cheerfully. 50 million Krill warriors turned on each other instead of attacking human colonies. By the time they finished fighting, there weren't enough left to threaten anyone. You destroyed an entire species, another alien accused. I saved them, Hyun corrected. The Krill Empire was rotten from the inside. Their leaders were criminals who murdered their own people for sport. I simply gave the Krill citizens the information they needed to free themselves. Thekmol was backing toward an exit. You're a monster. No, Hyun said softly. I'm a teacher. And today, you're going to learn why humanity stopped fighting wars. He walked over to Park Jin's body and knelt down. His loyal security chief had died protecting him, just like so many soldiers had died over the years. Hyun's smile disappeared for a moment as he closed Jin's eyes. Jin served with me during the Silent War, he said quietly. He knew what I used to be. He stayed with me anyway, because he believed I had changed. Hyun stood up and faced the council. His smile was back, but now it looked like death itself. I had changed, he continued. I became a diplomat because I thought the galaxy deserved peace. I spent 15 years trying to solve problems with words instead of warfare. He gestured to the bodies of his team. But you murdered diplomats under a flag of truce. You declared war on a species that sought only friendship. General Kextar tried to regain control. Silence! Guards, kill him now! But something strange happened. The weapons platforms didn't fire. The guards didn't move. Everyone in the chamber seemed frozen by the terrible smile on Hyun's face. "Do you want to know a secret?" Hyun asked. "About why they really called me the Smiling Death." He walked to Kim Nari's body and picked up her computer. The screen was cracked but still working. His fingers moved across the keyboard with practiced ease. "They called me that because I always smiled when I worked. Even when I was destroying entire civilizations, I never stopped smiling." "Do you know why?" The aliens were too terrified to answer. "Because I genuinely enjoyed it," Hyun said simply. "I loved every moment of turning enemies against each other. I found it beautiful when my plans came together perfectly." His fingers were still moving on the computer. "Whatever he was doing, it was complex and fast. My superiors made me retire because they were afraid of me," he continued. "They said I was too dangerous to keep in service. They gave me a choice: become a diplomat or face trial for war crimes." Thekmol had reached the chamber's main exit, but the door wouldn't open. "Let me out!" he screamed. "Oh, the exits are sealed," Hyun said without looking up from the computer. "I activated the station's emergency lockdown protocols. Nobody leaves. Until we're finished here?" "That's impossible," General Kextar growled. "You don't have access to our systems." Hyun looked up from the computer and smiled. "General, I've been studying this station for months. Did you think I came here unprepared?" The truth was starting to dawn on the aliens. This hadn't been a trap for humanity. It had been a trap for them. "Kim Nari wasn't just a communications expert," Hyun explained. "She was one of our best intelligence operatives. She's been mapping your system since we arrived." The computer beeped softly. Hyun's smile became truly terrifying. "There we go," he said happily. "I now have complete access to the station's communication array. Do you know what that means?" The aliens were too frightened to speak. "It means I can send messages to every world in the galaxy," Hyun continued. "Messages that will arrive with the Council's own security codes. Messages that will be absolutely believed." He began typing again, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "Let's see," he mused. "I think I'll start with a message to the Vorthak High Command. It will be from General Kextar, of course, reporting that the Zalani are planning to betray the Alliance." General Kextar lurched forward. "No, you can't!" "Oh, but I can," Hyun replied cheerfully. "And I think the Zalani High Council needs to know that the Vorthaks are planning to invade their territory. That message will come from Councillor Thekmol." Thekmol collapsed to the floor. "Please don't do this." "Why not?" Hyun asked, looking genuinely curious. "You murdered my friends. You declared war on my species. This is just the opening move." He sent the first batch of messages with a soft click. "Park Jin believed I had changed," Hyun said sadly. "He thought I had become a better person. But as he died, do you know what he told me?" The chamber was dead silent. He said, "Show them why they call you Death, Admiral." Hyun's smile was now openly predatory. "So that's exactly what I'm going to do." Millions of light years away, Earth received Kim Nari's final message. The signal was weak and broken, but the words Protocol Omega were clear enough. Within minutes, alarms were ringing in every human government building across the planet. "Admiral." Kang Su was eating dinner with his family when his emergency communicator screamed. He was an old man now, with gray hair and tired eyes. But when he heard the words Protocol Omega, he became the warrior he used to be. "All military commanders, to the command center immediately," he broadcast. "This is not a drill. The Admiral is in trouble." The human military had spent 30 years pretending to be peaceful traders and explorers. They had hidden their true strength so well that even their own people had forgotten what they were capable of. But Protocol Omega changed everything. Hidden. Bases throughout the galaxy received activation signals. Ships disguised as cargo haulers suddenly revealed their true nature as heavily armed warships. Space stations that looked like research outposts deployed massive weapon arrays. On the station, Harmony's Edge, Hyun was still typing messages on Kim Nari's computer. Each message was a carefully crafted lie designed to destroy trust between council species. His smile never wavered as he worked. "You see," he explained to the terrified aliens around him, "humanity learned something important during our expansion into the galaxy. We learned that the best way to win a war is to never let your enemies know they're fighting one." General Kextar tried again to reach his weapons platforms. "Security systems, respond." "Oh, they can't hear you," Hyun said pleasantly. "I've taken control of all station systems. Your weapons, your communications, your life support, it all belongs to me now." The truth was even worse than the aliens realized. For decades, humans had been quietly placing people throughout council space. They called them cultural exchange students or trade representatives or scientific observers. Every major world had dozens of these innocent-looking humans, but they weren't innocent at all. Dr. Lee Sun had been studying Vorthak technology for 5 years. The aliens thought she was just a curious scientist. They had no idea she was memorizing the designs of their most secret weapons. When her activation signal came, she quietly left her laboratory and disappeared into the city. Trader Kim Hwan had been selling Earth goods on the Zalani homeworld for 3 years. His shop was popular with local families who loved human music and art, but underneath his shop was a hidden communication center that had been recording every Zalani military transmission. Teacher Park Soo had been working at a school on the Aquarian, Republic's capital world. The fish-like Aquarians trusted her completely with their children. They never suspected that she was also mapping their defense systems and learning the locations of their most important buildings. Hundreds of humans throughout the galaxy received the same message. "The Admiral needs you. Begin Phase 1. Back." On the station, Hyun was enjoying himself immensely. His messages had already reached their targets. On the Vorthak homeworld, military commanders were reading evidence that the Zalani planned to attack them. On the Zalani homeworld, leaders were discovering proof that the Vorthaks were preparing for war. "The beauty of this plan," Hyun explained to his captive audience, "is that I don't need to lie, I just need to share information at the right time." He pulled up files on the computer screen. "For example, did you know that General Kextar has been stealing money meant for Vorthak soldiers? The evidence is all here in your own military databases." General Kextar went pale. "How did you access those files?" "Simple," Hyun replied. "Kim Nari hacked your systems months ago. We've been reading your communications, studying your culture, learning your weaknesses. Every species in the council has secrets they don't want their allies to know." Thekmol was shaking with fear. "What do you want?" "Want?" Hyun looked surprised. "I don't want anything. I'm just sharing information. For instance, Counselor Thekmol, your people should know that you've been selling their military secrets to the Aquarian Republic." "That's classified," Thekmol screamed. "Not anymore," Hyun said cheerfully, sending another message. "Your own people are about to learn what kind of leader you really are." Throughout council space, the messages were having their intended effect. Vorthak fleets were moving to attack Zalani positions. Zalani intelligence agents were trying to assassinate Vorthak leaders. The Aquarian Republic was declaring independence from the council. But the real surprise came from space itself. Admiral Kang Soo's voice suddenly filled the chamber through the station's communication system. "Harmony's Edge. This is Admiral Kang Soo of the Human Defense Fleet. We are here to collect our ambassador." Every alien in the chamber looked up in shock. Through the station's windows, they could see lights appearing in the darkness. Ships were dropping out of faster-than-light travel all around the station. "Impossible," General Kextar whispered. "Humans don't have a fleet, don't we?" Hyun asked. His smile was radiant with joy. "Did you really think we spent 30 years building trade ships and research stations? We've been preparing for this day since we first met alien species." The ships outside weren't just appearing randomly, they were taking precise positions around every major council world. Each fleet was perfectly placed to destroy planetary defenses within minutes. Attention, Council species. Admiral Kang Su's broadcast continued. 37 minutes ago, you murdered human diplomats under a flag of truce. This is an act of war. However, humanity is prepared to show mercy. Hyun was still typing, still sending his poisonous messages. Mercy, he repeated. That's what we call it when we destroy you slowly instead of quickly. You have 1 hour to surrender the individuals responsible for attacking our people, Kang Su announced. If you refuse, we will consider all council species to be enemy combatants. General Kextar tried to contact his own fleets, but his communications were dead. Hyun had made sure of that. The wonderful thing about information warfare, Hyun explained, is that your enemies defeat themselves. Right now, your fleets are fighting each other instead of organizing against us. He pulled up a tactical display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked conflicts that were breaking out between council species. Green dots showed human assets that were now active throughout their territory. Every communication hub, every military base, every government building has humans nearby, Hyun said proudly. We've been planning this for decades. But why? An alien representative asked. We offered you trade agreements. We welcomed you into galactic society. Hyun's smile became sad. Yes, you did, and I genuinely hoped for peace. But then you decided we were too dangerous to live. He gestured to the bodies of his team. These people died believing in diplomacy. They thought words could solve any problem. I used to think that too. The tactical display showed more conflicts, breaking out. The council was destroying itself exactly as Hyun had planned. The difference between me and them, he said quietly, is that I remember what humans are really capable of. We're not just diplomats or traders or scientists. His smile returned, more terrible than ever. We're the species that conquered our own planet before we learned to fly. We're the species that survived ice ages and plagues and nuclear wars. We're the species that never stops learning how to be better killers. Admiral Kang Su's voice filled the chamber again. 53 minutes remaining. We strongly suggest you comply with our demands. Hyun looked around at the terrified aliens. I'd listen to him if I were you. The Admiral is much less patient than I am. 3 days after the attack on the human delegation, the galaxy was burning. Hyun's carefully planned messages had worked better than even he had expected. The Great Council Alliance was tearing itself apart in the largest civil war in galactic history. On the Vorthak homeworld, General Morkex was reading the evidence that his trusted General Kextar had been stealing military funds. The proof was overwhelming and came from their own secure databases. Morkex's forearms shook with rage as he ordered Kextar's arrest. Find every ship loyal to that traitor, he commanded his officers. Destroy them all. The Vorthak fleet split into 2 factions. Ships that had served together for decades suddenly turned their weapons on each other. Space battles erupted throughout Vorthak territory as the military civil war spread. Meanwhile, on the Zalani homeworld, Counselor Vel Nara had discovered that Thekkamol had been selling military secrets to their enemies. The evidence appeared in her private communications system with full security codes, making it impossible to ignore. That blue-skinned fool has endangered our entire civilization, she hissed to her advisors. Send assassination teams to every world where he has supporters. The Zalani intelligence networks, famous for their deadly efficiency, began hunting their own people. Thekmol's faction fought back with equal brutality. Zalani colonies became battlegrounds as the species' natural paranoia consumed them. The Aquarian Republic simply declared independence from the Council and closed their borders. Their fish-like leaders had received proof that every other species was planning to invade their water worlds. Aquarian fleets surrounded their territory. and shot at anything that came too close. Hyun watched it all from the station's command center, which he had claimed as his own. The bodies of his team had been moved to a place of honor, and he had sealed the chamber where they died. No alien was allowed to enter that sacred space. "Status report," he said to the station's communication system. Admiral Kang Su's voice replied immediately. 17 major conflicts ongoing. The Vorthak Empire has lost 40% of its fleet to internal fighting. The Zalani Confederation is in complete chaos. 6 minor species have declared war on their neighbors. "Excellent," Hyun said, his smile bright and terrible. "And our assets? All human operatives are safe and reporting regularly. We now control communication networks on 43 worlds. Enemy fleet movements are being tracked in real time." Hyun nodded with satisfaction. The plan was working perfectly, but the aliens on the station were learning that their nightmare was just beginning. Dr. Lee Sun sent her report from the Vorthak homeworld. "Military factories have stopped production due to the Civil War. I've introduced computer viruses into their manufacturing systems. Even if they stop fighting each other, they won't be able to build new weapons for months." Trader Kim Hwan reported from Zalani space. "Intelligence networks are completely compromised. They're so busy hunting each other that they've forgotten about external threats. I've been feeding false information to both factions, keeping the conflict alive." Teacher Park Su's message came from the Aquarian Republic. "Borders are sealed and their fleets are isolated. They're treating every ship as hostile. I've convinced them that invasion fleets are gathering in nearby systems." Hundreds of similar reports flowed in. Human agents throughout the galaxy were systematically destroying the Council's ability to fight back. They did it quietly, carefully, and with smiles on their faces. "You see," Hyun explained to the surviving Council members who were now his prisoners, "this is what happens when you attack a species that thinks differently than you do." General Kextar had been stripped of his rank and weapons. He sat in a corner of the command center, watching his empire destroy itself. "You're a monster," he whispered. "No," Hyun replied calmly. "I'm a teacher, and you're learning the most important lesson in galactic history." "What lesson?" Thekmol asked. The Zalani counselor had aged decades in just 3 days. "You're learning that there are worse things than death," Hyun said. "You're learning what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness." The tactical display showed the galaxy-wide chaos in real time. Green dots marked human positions. Red dots showed active conflicts. Yellow dots indicated species that had surrendered to human demands. "The beautiful thing about this strategy," Hyun continued, "is that we haven't fired a shot. Your own people are doing all the work for us. Admiral Kang Su's ships maintained perfect formations around every major world. They didn't attack, didn't threaten, didn't even communicate. They just watched as the Council species destroyed themselves. "Why don't you just kill us?" an alien representative asked. Hyun looked genuinely puzzled. "Kill you? Why would we do that? Dead enemies can't suffer. Dead enemies can't learn from their mistakes." He gestured to the tactical display. "This is so much better than death. Your civilizations are tearing themselves apart. Your people are learning that their leaders are corrupt and incompetent. Your military forces are being destroyed by your own allies." "But we'll recover," General Kextar said desperately. "Eventually, we'll rebuild." "Will you?" Hyun asked. "How can you rebuild when you don't know who to trust? How can you form alliances when everyone has betrayed everyone else?" The truth was becoming clear to the aliens. This wasn't just military defeat. It was the complete destruction of their political system. The Council would never exist again because its member species would never trust each other again. "Every secret you tried to hide has been revealed," Hyun explained. "Every lie you told your people has been exposed. Every crime your leaders committed has been broadcast across the galaxy." He pulled up news reports from dozens of worlds. Everywhere, civilian populations were rising up against their governments. The leaders who had ordered the attack on human diplomats were being hunted by their own people. My friends died believing in peace, Hyun said quietly. They thought diplomacy could solve any problem. But you taught me that some species only understand force. Please, Thekmol begged, make it stop. We surrender. Hyun's smile was kind and gentle, exactly like the diplomat he used to be. Oh, my dear counselor, this isn't about surrender. This is about education. What do you mean? General Kextar asked, though he clearly feared the answer. I mean that this is just the beginning, Hyun replied cheerfully. You wanted to see humanity's true face. You wanted to know what we're really capable of. Well, now you're going to learn. He turned back to the tactical display, his smile growing wider. Class is now in session, and the lesson plan is going to take a very long time. Admiral Kang Su's voice filled the chamber again. Ambassador, we have reports of surrender requests from 14 species. How should we respond? Hyun considered the question carefully. Tell them we'll accept their surrender when they've learned the full lesson. They attacked diplomats under a flag of truce. They need to understand what that means. Understood, sir. How long should this lesson continue? Hyun looked at the bodies of his fallen friends, then at the terrified aliens around him. Until they remember this day for the rest of their history, until they teach their children never to mistake human kindness for human weakness, until they understand that diplomacy only works when both sides respect the rules. His smile was no longer diplomatic. It was the smile of a teacher who loved his work. This lesson will last as long as it needs to last. 6 months after the attack on the human delegation, the galaxy had changed completely. The Great Galactic Council no longer existed. In its place was something new, something that made the surviving alien species very nervous. Ambassador Lee. Hyun sat behind a massive desk in what used to be the Council's main chamber. The room had been redecorated with human artwork and memorials to Park Jin, Kim Nari, and Choi Min. Their sacrifice was honored in every meeting, their names spoken. With respect by representatives from dozens of worlds, the aliens came to him now. They came seeking permission to trade, to travel, to communicate with their own colonies. They came with requests and apologies and desperate offers of friendship. Most importantly, they came alone, never again trusting each other enough to form alliances. Next appointment, Hyun said pleasantly to his new assistant, a young human woman named Han Sol. The door opened to admit former General Kextar. The once proud Vorthak warrior looked old and broken. His 4 arms shook as he approached. Hyun's desk. The civil war that destroyed the Vorthak Empire had cost him everything he cared about. Ambassador, Kextar said, his voice barely a whisper. My people are starving. Our trade networks have collapsed. Please, we need food shipments. Hyun smiled kindly. Of course, General. Humanity is always happy to help our friends. But first, let's review what you've learned. This was the new ritual. Every alien who came seeking help had to demonstrate that they understood the lesson. Hyun had turned education into an art form. Speak, Hyun commanded gently. Kextar's red eyes filled with shame. I learned that attacking diplomats is wrong. I learned that humanity seeks peace but is capable of terrible war. I learned that trust, once broken, can never be fully repaired. Very good, Hyun said, making notes on his computer. And what else? I learned that my species' belief in military strength was foolish. True power comes from information, patience, and understanding your enemies better than they understand themselves. Hyun nodded approvingly. Excellent. Food shipments will begin tomorrow. But remember, General, these supplies come with conditions. Anything, Kextar pleaded. Human observers will monitor the distribution. Our teachers will educate your children about galactic history, and you will accept human advisors in your new government. It was the same deal offered to every species. Humanity would provide aid, protection, and guidance. In return, the aliens would accept human oversight of their most important decisions. They always agreed because they had no choice. The next visitor was even more pathetic. Counselor Thekmol shuffled into the room wearing simple clothes instead of his ceremonial robes. The Zalani Civil War had been particularly brutal, with intelligence agents murdering anyone suspected of disloyalty. "Ambassador," Thekmol said, "my homeworld requests permission to reopen our universities. Our educational system has collapsed." "Of course," Hyun replied warmly. "Education is very important. But the new curriculum will need to be approved by human scholars." "What will they teach?" Thekmol asked fearfully. "The truth," Hyun said simply. "About galactic history, about the causes of war, about the importance of keeping diplomatic agreements. Your children will learn why their parents' generation failed so completely." Thekmol winced, but nodded. The alternative was watching his A species slide into permanent barbarism. Throughout the day, more aliens came with similar requests. The Aquarian Republic wanted help repairing their damaged colonies. The Torvan Syndicate needed medical supplies for a plague that had broken out during their civil war. The Crystal Communes required new communication equipment to contact their scattered settlements. Hyun helped them all. He was generous with aid, patient with their mistakes, and understanding of their problems. But every gift came with strings attached. Human observers, human advisors, human teachers, human peacekeepers. "Sir," Han Sol said during a brief break, "the morning reports are ready." Hyun reviewed the status updates from across the galaxy. Dr. Lee Sun had been promoted to Director of Vorthak Military Education. Her job was teaching young Vorthak soldiers about the rules of war and the importance of protecting civilians. Trader Kim Hwan now ran the Zalani Economic Recovery Program. He decided which Zalani businesses received human investment and which were left to fail. Only companies that promoted peace and cooperation were supported. Teacher Park Soo had become the Aquarian Republic's Minister of Cultural Exchange. She organized student exchange programs that taught young Aquarians about human values like tolerance and diplomatic immunity. Hundreds of humans held similar positions throughout the galaxy. They were all volunteers who genuinely wanted to help alien species recover from their self-inflicted wounds. But they were also agents of human policy, ensuring that the lessons of the war were never forgotten. "Any problems?" Hyun asked. "Minor incidents only," Han Sol reported. 3 species attempted to form a secret alliance against human influence. Our intelligence networks detected their communications within hours. And their response when confronted with the evidence? Complete cooperation. They've requested human mediation to resolve their differences peacefully. Hyun smiled with genuine pleasure. "Excellent. They're learning." The door chimed again, and Admiral Kang Soo entered the chamber. The old warrior looked tired but satisfied. His fleets still patrolled the galaxy, but their mission had changed from intimidation to protection. "Admiral," Hyun greeted his old friend. "How are our peacekeeping operations?" "Smooth as silk," Kang Soo replied. "No major conflicts in over 3 months. A few border disputes, but they all requested human arbitration instead of fighting. Any species showing signs of military buildup? None. They're too busy rebuilding their economies and governments. Plus, they know we're watching." It was true. Human surveillance networks monitored every world, every fleet, every communication. The aliens had learned that nothing could be hidden from human intelligence. The lesson had been taught through painful experience. "There is one interesting development," Kang Soo continued. 7 species have formally requested to join a new organization. They want to call it the Galactic Peace Alliance. "With humanity as the senior partner?" Hyun asked. "Of course. They're not stupid enough to try excluding us again." Hyun leaned back in his chair and looked out the window at the bustling station. Aliens from dozens of worlds worked together under human supervision. They were building something new, something better than the old council system. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "I think Park Jin would be proud of what we've accomplished." Han Sol looked puzzled. "Sir? How can you be sure?" Hyun's smile was gentle and sad. Because we kept his promise. He died protecting diplomacy, believing that peace was possible. We've given the galaxy peace. At gunpoint, Kang-Soo pointed out. Sometimes that's the only way, Hyun replied. These species spent centuries fighting each other. They only learned to cooperate when they had no other choice. And if they ever forget the lesson? Han Sol asked. Hyun's smile became sharper. They won't forget. We've made sure of that. He activated his computer and called up the memorial files. Images of Park Jin, Kim Nari, and Choi Min appeared on the screen. Their deaths had been turned into the foundation myth of the new galactic order. Every school in the galaxy teaches about the Harmony's Edge massacre, Hyun said. Every alien child learns what happens when diplomats are murdered under a flag of truce. And every alien adult remembers the consequences, Kang-Soo added. The door chimed one final time. A young Vorthak officer entered, wearing the new uniform of the Galactic Peace Alliance. His 4 arms carried a data pad with the day's final report. Ambassador, the officer said respectfully. All sectors report peaceful status. No conflicts, no violations of diplomatic immunity, no unauthorized military movements. Thank you, Lieutenant Tarkev, Hyun replied. Please send my congratulations to all sector commanders. The young Vorthak beamed with pride and left to deliver the message. He had been born after the war and educated in human schools. To him, human leadership wasn't occupation. It was the natural order of things. He'll make a good leader someday, Han Sol observed. Yes, Hyun agreed. His generation understands what their parents learned too late. Peace isn't weakness. Diplomacy isn't surrender. And attacking ambassadors is the fastest way to destroy your civilization. Admiral Kang-Soo stood to leave. Same time tomorrow? Of course, Hyun replied. The galaxy doesn't run itself. As his old friend departed, Hyun turned back to his computer. Tomorrow would bring new requests for aid, new applications for alliance membership, new opportunities to teach the galaxy's children about human values. He pulled up his final report of the day and began typing. The document would be sent to Earth, where human leaders tracked the progress of their grand experiment in galactic governance. Status: all major species remain peaceful and cooperative. Human advisors report full compliance with alliance regulations. No signs of organized resistance to human authority. Recommend continuing current policies. He paused and looked at the memorial images of his fallen friends. The lesson continues, he typed. They are learning. Slowly. But they are learning. Hyun finished his report and sent it to Earth. Then he stood and walked to the window, looking out at the peaceful station, where aliens worked together under human guidance.